Hello, Southwest Florida homeowners and homebuyers. Welcome to the 239 Real Estate Roundtable Podcast, your go-to source for navigating the vibrant real estate landscape of our beautiful region. I'm your host, Kevin Tremmel, a local real estate agent, leader, and investor here in Southwest Florida. On this podcast, we bring you insights from best in the business, top-notch real estate professionals, seasoned agents, and experts in everything from homeowners insurance to mortgages, maintenance, and repairs. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned homeowner, we've got you covered with tips, strategies, and valuable insights to make your journey in Southwest Florida's real estate market a breeze. Get ready to unlock the doors to successful home ownership. This is the 239 Real Estate Roundtable Podcast, where we demystify the process, share insider knowledge, and ensure you're well equipped to make informed decisions. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable Podcast. Today, I'm excited to have on the show Mitch Norgart. Mitch is a seasoned broker associate and a distinguished luxury property specialist with William Raveis Real Estate, based in the heart of Naples, Florida. Mitch has been in real estate for decades. He has built a legacy in luxury real estate. He's known for his sharp market insights, strategic marketing, and a dedication to client service. Welcome to the show, Mitch. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Well, I always like to get started so, the audience can kind of get to know you a little bit better. Kind of walk us through your career. How did you get to where you're at today? Anything that stands out negatively or positively? I'd be interested to learn.
Well, yeah, thanks. Well, in the 35 years of being in real estate, of course, we've seen some ups and downs, and you don't have to be a realtor to understand what happened in 2008 and 2009, and it even trickled into 10 and 11. But how I got here is kind of a simple path. I started my career after college in somewhat of a corporate world with Ritz-Carlton hotels, and decided two things: that I didn't want to live outside of the state of Florida, which Ritz-Carlton, after a period of time, wanted me to move to Detroit, Michigan. And there was a hard stop with that. And so in the 6 months that I gave them remaining, I went and got my real estate license and figured that I could make a living, and not having to travel all the time right here in Naples. And so real estate was perfect for me to get into because so many of my Ritz-Carlton clients were executives with major corporations. And so getting into real estate, the fine art of good quality service, I was taught that at Ritz-Carlton. And I know how people use this term a lot, but a concierge level of service. And so that just kind of trickled over to my real estate career. And I was fortunate enough to have some really good mentors in real estate early on. And I was with Collier Enterprises for 12 plus years and had a wonderful experience developing Collier's Reserve Country Club up in North Naples. And during that period of time, I developed amazing relationships with fellow realtors who would bring clients to me so that we could find a lot, build them a home. And so I was fortunate enough not only to get a great client base, a high-end client base, but also a great rapport with fellow realtors. And I think that was the key to my success, to whatever degree that may be, was not only establishing great working relationships with realtors, but also and long-term relationships with my clients. And thankfully, after 3 decades of doing this, a lot of my business is obviously repeat business. And at Collier's Reserve, in the 12 years that it took us to build that country club out, quite a few of the people that we were building homes for were recent retirees in their early to mid 60s. Well, 10 years later, they don't want to play as tough of a golf course, but they also want to move into a condo. And so we would be putting their homes up for sale, and then I would help them find generally a condo nearby if they wanted to stay on as a non-resident member. So again, it was the cycle of just staying in touch with people, and post-closing became clear to me was more important than pre-closing, because the work you do and the maintenance of a relationship post-closing is what stays in their minds as well. This, how well did you treat them? How professional, and how well you looked out for their best interest, stayed with them post closing.
Yeah. And would you say to this date, still most of your business is, repeat business or like previous clients and referrals of those previous clients? Is that kind of still true in this day and age, or?
Well, I wish I could say all of my business was repeat business, but the theory of attrition also takes place, but natural attrition. But no, and I think, Kevin, one of the important lessons that I have learned is that you have to be tuned in and dialed in to the age of the internet and of social media. And so, I spend a lot of money on our website, the Norgart Team Real Estate, NorgartTeamRealEstate.com, do a lot of e-blast, do a lot of direct mail, because if you don't continue to go after new clients, new buyers, new sellers, I think it's rare that you can solely depend upon repeat business.
It needs to be a good balance and mix between repeat business and new business. Yeah,
absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. So, as far as Naples residents go, as far as how long somebody has lived here, you are pretty much a local, right? No, as we all know, no one's really from here. But if you've been here 30, 40 years, you're pretty much from here, right? So I wanna get your take on, you started at the Ritz-Carlton, the one I'm assuming in Naples on Vanderbilt Beach, and I get your take on. Let's start with what, in your opinion, what makes the Naples luxury market unique, special?
Yeah, I think everybody's got a varying level of opinion, but I moved here in 1976 with my family, and Gulf Shore Boulevard, the only difference between Gulf Shore Boulevard and then and now, is there was this canopy of coconut palm trees that completely covered Gulf Shore Boulevard from the Naples Beach Club all the way down to the Naples Pier. And that's like 18 blocks. And today, the only difference is that there still are coconut palms, but because the palm disease took away a whole lot of those coconut palms, they were able to inoculate those that were left. But the only other difference is the size of the homes, and now there's, 10 and 12,000 square foot homes on either side of Gulf Shore Boulevard. But, I think it's the allure that was for my family back then, and still is for me and my family, is just how well kept the city is, and even the county. And, look at Immokalee Road, look at Bayshore Drive, look at so many of these streets and roads that have landscaped center medians. And we've grown so accustomed to seeing that in Naples and Collier County that you don't see it in other cities and other counties. And I think just the pristine and the cleanliness nature of Naples we overlook that because we take it for granted. But when people come here and they go, oh my gosh, this town is beautiful, and it's well managed, it's well maintained. And the fact that it's understated elegance. And you're going to see a lot of Ferraris and Bentleys and, Lamborghinis, but it's kind of an understated opulence, and I prefer that. Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. I actually live in Lee County myself, and even from Lee to Collier, what you mentioned with the not too many roads in Lee County have miles and miles and miles and miles of landscape medians, right? So that's definitely an interesting point. So with desire comes great competition, obviously, in our market, right? Florida as a whole has a lot of agents, and then Collier County and Lee County has a lot of agents, and then all those agents obviously want to sell the homes that they see on HGTV. So my question is, you've been in the luxury real estate game in one of the hottest real estate markets in the nation for quite some time now. So how do you kind of consistently stay ahead in such a competitive space and industry?
That's a great question. And I often ask myself, how, not necessarily how do I compete with other luxury realtors, but how do I maintain the niche, and how do I maintain the perception among not only customers, but potential or prospective customers? What is it that my team brings to the table? Because my team consists of 3 other people, and that's Elle Anderson, my son Dane, and Michael Bodetti. And all 4 of us always have an underlying current of going beyond the call of duty when it comes to service. And as mentioned earlier, a concierge level of service, anticipating people's ideas and desires and their wants, and, just really providing rock solid stand-up service. And by doing that, we have surrounded ourselves with excellent attorneys, people that you rely upon before the transaction, after the transaction, and knowing that you're putting your faith and confidence in all these other service providers, knowing that when you turn your customer over to whoever that might be, an insurance person or a handyman or a painter or any of the professional services that we as realtors rely upon, we make darn sure before we put our clients in their hands, that they're going to do exactly the way we would do for them. And so I think you have to surround yourself with not just an insular team, but an external team. And
right.
I don't know that, in fact, I just got a listing recently for $12.5 million where I was competing with 3 other realtors. And when the sellers called me and said, "You got the business," I said, "Thank you." And then like 5 minutes into the conversation, I said, "What was it?" Because I knew the people that I was competing against, and they're all excellent realtors. And I know 2 of them very well. And they just said, you knew exactly the answer when we were asking you questions about everything that we could think of. And they said it was necessarily not you being right, but just having the experience. And that goes along with also being a senior citizen in real estate. So there are some positive aspects of having been doing this for over 30 years.
Hey, Mitch, for the Naples crowd, you are just graduating college, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And, naturally, obviously, with that much experience comes just a certain level of confidence, which I'm sure someone that's trying to sell their $12 million home is looking for. So, well, congratulations, first of all. And
thank you.
Well deserved. Sometimes you have these listings that are easier where maybe, they're just kind of interviewing you because maybe it's past client referral, friend referral, something like that. And then you have the listings that you just mentioned where you're competing against 2 to 3 top level agents. So those feel even better when you get the business, right? So congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, what's kind of you do a lot of kind of like off market and find like a lot of hidden properties for your buyer clients before they even hit the market. How do you discover and secure like those hidden gem properties for your high end like buyer clients?
Yeah, it's another great question, Kevin. I think there's a certain profile of a seller, particularly someone who, doesn't want a for sale sign in their front yard. They don't want the whole neighborhood to know that they're putting their home on the market. They want to do private placement, and they understand completely that private placement can take longer, particularly for a more expensive home or condo, but they're okay with that because they're not in a desperation situation, more than likely. At least not from what I've dealt with in Naples. It's just more about the term private placement. And
right.
Oftentimes when you have a pocket listing or a private placement listing or just an off market, word of mouth listing, I think the buyers are tending towards that as well. They have an appreciation for privacy. They have an appreciation for it's going to be in the public record, but it's probably going to be under an LLC or a name that is not anything to do with who the person really is. And I think that's one reason why executives, high-end executives or well-known people gravitate towards Naples, is because there's a lot of, you could go to Tulia or Campiello's or anywhere in Naples, and you wouldn't know that you were sitting next to the CEO of General Electric. I mean, of course, you're going to know who you're sitting next to if John Travolta is sitting right next to you, unless he doesn't have his hairpiece on. It's like I've seen him at Barbatella like 3 times singing along with the guy playing the piano, but he's okay with being seen. But, that's one of the great things about Naples, is that you can have anonymity here and not have to worry about people oogling it over you. And so the off-market stuff is, you had asked me the question, sorry for my long-winded answer, but
all good.
I think it's also just being in that network and kind of knowing some of the realtors, most of the realtors in, for instance, like Port Royal or Aqua Lane Shores or the beachfront, they let that word out to a select few and just say, oh, by the way, I have this listing on Kingstown Drive or Galleon Drive or Gordon Drive. Here's the price, here's the specs, but we're not putting it on MLS. But if you've got anybody, let me know.
Right. Right.
And there is that network. There is a good network of a small number of realtors in downtown Naples who certainly work with each other in that regard.
Yeah. Interesting. And then earlier you said, and we talked about like how your business is kind of, referrals past clients. And then your answer was the day and age of the internet. Obviously, one has to adapt. So I'd be curious to know your opinion on what are you using, like what's working as far as like digital marketing for like luxury listings? What do you see like strategies that are delivering results right now in this market?
Well, it's interesting, and clearly, and I think a tried and proven marketing strategy, which is age old, is direct mail. And obviously the reason that direct mail, especially during the season, works is because the wealthier demographic of Naples would rather walk out to their mailbox and get a postcard and look at it, as opposed to going on their computer and going and looking at emails that they're being sent. I mean, and then it's not about ignorance. It's about when retired people, they would rather put something in their hands and look at it. And on their way back to their front door, they may put it in their recycling bin. But at the same time, I think they're more likely. So direct mail is, you got to still use it. But I'm very selective with who I send direct mail to. I've got a database of 26,000 emails of people in the Midwest, in the Chicagoland suburbs, Minneapolis suburbs, Ohio, Cleveland suburbs, and the Northeast. And I pay dearly for those email addresses. So we send out on a regular basis updates to the Naples market. We feature our listings. And thirdly, we've paid a lot to have what's called, and I'm sure you've heard of it, luxury presence website. Luxury presence does nothing but, real estate websites.
Luxury websites. Yeah.
And we are very engaged with luxury presence. What I like about them, and by the way, Elle, my partner, she is very digitally, social media wise, and just extremely adept at managing the website. And we know what we want from the website, and it's all Google reviews. It's not all Google or sponsored, but people can click on our website at norgartteamrealestate.com and kind of get a snapshot of the Naples market, what's available, not just our listings, but other listings. And they get a bio on us, and they can get to know us, and without actually engaging. And if they like what they see, they can reach out to us.
Yeah.
And so those are
good.
the three. And of course, referral business and word of mouth and repeat business.
Right.
I mean, 15 years ago, Kevin, you know this as well as I do, the websites were not a part of email, e-blast. We're not even a part of our vernacular. Now, if you don't incorporate that into your business, you're missing out on a whole world of business. So you have to be there. You have to be present within it.
Right. Yeah, no, makes sense. And I also like the fact that you didn't just mention just digital marketing, but also the fact that mailers and postcards still works. That's a good pointer too.
Particular for that demographic.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And to kind of wrap it up, what kind of excites you most about of real estate in Naples? What should homeowners and buyers and other agents be preparing for? Where do you think the road is heading?
I appreciate you asking me that. As you know, Collier County, out of 67 counties in the state of Florida, is the largest land area county in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have enough room to accommodate about another 700,000 to 800,000 people in Collier County. Now, granted, most of that growth is going to be in the northeast quadrant of Collier County. But what I'm excited about is, because you can't stop the wheels of progress. And I worked for Miles Collier, whose father was Baron Collier, or his grandfather rather, was Baron Collier. And Baron Collier was quoted as saying back in the mid 1880s that you can't stop the wheels of progress, but you can guide those wheels. And Collier County has done an amazing job, in my opinion, of guiding development. And so when you're seeing these villages that we're building, that the developers have to build up shopping centers, they have to build public services, parks. So you can't just build a bunch of homes and then make people drive into downtown Naples for entertainment. So I'm excited for what the growth that is not here, but is coming. But I'm also excited over the fact that the city of Naples has largely stayed the same, with the exception of bigger homes. It's still pristine. It's still beautiful, and it's still amazing. And, there is no other place like Naples. And I'm excited that I'm in the business of helping people find their piece of paradise here. Yeah,
that's awesome. I think Collier County is doing a great job. And I think, obviously Lee County's just different market and just different demographic. And I think they're doing a good job too. But
absolutely.
I think Collier County is doing a great job of keeping it Collier County, like keeping it Naples, like why people love Naples and move here and vacation here, but still growing, right? It's oftentimes like you look at places like Tampa and Miami where like they're growing, but like they're a lot of times like they're growing to grow, right? There's skyscrapers everywhere, like infrastructure, all that. And then on the other side, you have, other places where like there's just no growth and there's just, no economic growth either. Like I think Collier County is just doing a fantastic job of keeping the charm, but obviously there is growth, a lot of it. So I think I'm right there with you. So well, Mitch, I want to thank you for your time and your insight and your story, and thanks for sharing. And I'm excited to where the journey heads here in Southwest Florida. And we will obviously link all of your websites and your contact information in the descriptions down below. But if someone wants to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about luxury real estate in Naples, where would be a good place to start? How can they get in touch?
Probably our website, norgartteamrealestate.com, and that's NORGART. And it's got my email address. It's got my telephone number in there as well. So and I will say this: Es war sehr nett, Sie zu sprechen, Kevin.
Ja, es hat mich auch sehr gefreut.
Danke sehr.
Bitteschön. And you enjoy the rest of your day. And it's been a pleasure, Mitch.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Yes, sir. See you soon. Same here.
All right. Take care.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable knowledge to enhance your home ownership journey here in Southwest Florida. A big thank you to our incredible guests and, of course, to you, our listeners, for joining us. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to connect, feel free to reach out. You can find us on Instagram at Kevin Tremmel _real estate, on Facebook at Kevin Tremmel Real Estate, or visit our website, kevintremmel.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback is crucial, and we're always eager to hear from you. Until next time, this is Kevin Tremmel, your host, signing off. See you on the next episode.